Hi, welcome to Ms. Cooper's art class. Today I'm going to show you how to use watercolor and pen together for a nice exercise to get inspired or just to doodle. You're going to need a few things. You'll need a nice fine point felt tip pen, a brush, some watercolors. You're going to want some paper towel to clean your brush in between and just some paper, but this could be any old paper, nothing fancy. What you'll want to start by doing is adding some kind of background for your pen to go on and for you to figure out where you want the pen to go. Use whatever colors you want, whatever mood you're in. Now I'm going to set up 3 different ones so I can kind of get 3 different moods or personalities out of each artwork. So in this one I chose some yellow to start with, then I added some green and some blue and just let it all blend together. For this orange one, I wanted something kind of bold, but I still let things blend and I tried to have some sharp lines. And then for this last one, I wanted to have some really bold brush strokes. So you can see all of these different personalities that I have set up here that I can put pen over. And then once you have all of these different ones done, you're going to want to set them aside to dry once you're sure that you're happy with them and you've looked at all of them together. So let's talk about some things you can do with the pen. The first thing you can try is stippling. This is where you draw with a bunch of dots. When you cluster a lot of dots together, it gets darker, and as you spread them out, it gets lighter. I have a video about stippling if you'd like to learn more about it, or you could just kind of go with the flow and let the dots cluster wherever they happen to cluster and create value. It'll create some points of excitement and emphasis in these little doodles. So that's stippling. Let's talk about some line work you can use as well. Because line work goes hand in hand the way we're going to do it here, because we're going to make our line work a little bit delicate. As we move our pen along the paper, we're going to let it skip just a little bit because this is something we can very easily do with felt tip pens. And you can build up those lines by working them in right next to each other. So even though they're kind of faint, you can add a little bit of value or almost show ripples like water, because this is watercolor and it's something that can be kind of flowy. So your line work is something to have fun with in here. But you can also combine line work and stippling to get the best of each one on top of your artwork. They go really well, and if you maybe make some stippling you don't like, you can put a line over it and add more dots, or vice versa. But look at how powerful they are when you add them together. It's definitely something to consider. So now that our paint is dry, let's go ahead and do some drawing. So one of the best places to start is by looking at the edges of your paint. I'm doing some faint line work on mine. You can see where I'm letting it skip because there is already an edge there. I'm just making it a little bit easier to notice. And so then what you can do on your own doodle and your own exercise is pull out any lines that you find interesting. If there's a blob of paint that's not interesting, you don't have to draw a line. And see what you notice. Maybe some parts look like puddles or waterfalls or rocks. And add some emphasis lines. And maybe, if there's some negative space, draw some extra lines in there that look like the same shapes that you see in your watercolor. In this one, I'm just going to add stippling and see what that looks like. I'll add some in the negative space, and I'll add some in one of the dark spots. Maybe arrange your stippling into lines or shapes and see how that looks on top of your watercolor. That's something to try. Now this one's still a little bit wet and I smeared it, but it made this lovely shape that looks like a rock poking out of the water. So I went with that, and I added some lines that look like puddles and ripples. I even looked at the edge of where my paint was on the page and outlined that. And then I combined some stippling. It kind of seemed like rain clouds or waterfalls, so I added some little spouts and little waterfalls of stippling dots that are falling down the page because that just seemed relaxing and it just looked right with the way the purple paint was also kind of running down the page and bleeding through the paper. So you'll notice that when I was all done, I cut them. I cropped off anything that I didn't need, any of that extra space, because then that gave me a better way to figure out if I needed to fill any of my space in a different way. So for example, I went back in on this purple, yellow, and green one and added just a little bit more stippling and a few more lines. Anyway, with that, I'm excited to hear about what you do. Definitely let me know what comments you chose. what colors you chose in the comments. Please like if this was helpful and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching.